The film begins with a gritty video showing young girls being kept against their will by some people, like it's part of some strange ceremony dedicated to something they call the Low God. These scenes are unsettling, and they soon switch to Captain Will Lauren. He's the brave police officer who stormed the farm where John Malum, the leader of a cult, and his followers were keeping the girls captive, planning to use them in a ritual sacrifice. He saved 3 of them, but still regrets not going a little earlier and saving the 4th one too. Later on, we witness 2 police officers who have come to practice shooting, having a conversation. Suddenly, without warning, Will raises a shotgun and fires, tragically ending the life of the female officer. The terrified male officer looks back and begs for mercy. Shockingly, he repeats this horrifying act with the other cop too. As more officers rush to the scene, urging Will to surrender, he remains eerily composed. Instead of complying, he calmly asks them to pass on a message to Jessica and Diane, expressing his love for them and his belief that he is now under the protection of his master. Saying that, he ends. Fast forward a year, we find Jessica Lauren gearing up for her inaugural shift as a police officer. She takes a moment to visit her father's resting place, where she unexpectedly encounters her mother Diane. The woman seems drunk, and her daughter looks at her, disappointed. Their interaction carries an underlying tension, hinting at a strained relationship complicated by various factors. After a brief heated exchange, Jessica departs, leaving Diane alone at the graveside. As Diane also leaves, a chilling sight unfolds as we see a satanic symbol crafted from blood appear behind Will's tombstone. Following this, Jessica finds herself at the aging police station, opting to take on a shift there, driven by her desire to get a glimpse into her father's world, if only for a single night. When Officer Cohen, her senior, learns of her lineage, his demeanor turns sour. He bluntly labels her father a crazy slaughterer, accusing him of brutally taking out his comrades before ending his own with a shotgun. Puzzled by her presence, Cohen questions her motives, unable to fathom why she would choose such a shift. Jessica simply asserts her intention to work. However, Jessica's true purpose soon comes to light through her actions. She seeks to uncover the truth behind her father's violent actions. After looking around, she finds a framed map of the station. Sneaking into the locker room, she attempts to pry open her father's old locker. Her efforts are interrupted by an unsettling noise resembling footsteps. Intrigued, she cautiously explores the nearby bathroom, but finds it empty. Suddenly, she hears a ball rolling outside, prompting her to venture out for a closer look. There, on the basketball court, she discovers a solitary ball and spies a mysterious silhouette. Hastily flicking on the lights, she finds herself alone. The figure has vanished without a trace. Just then, the piercing sound of a bell echoes through the station, drawing Jessica's attention to the gate where she finds an elderly man waiting. Concerned, she approaches him, offering assistance. However, his response catches her off guard, as he oddly inquires about her non-existent baby girl. Jessica suggests calling a shelter for him, but to her surprise, the man begins urinating on the gate before abruptly departing, leaving her perplexed. After tidying up the unexpected mess, Jessica returns to her task of trying to crack the lock on her father's locker, determined to unravel the mysteries within. Yet, despite her best efforts, the lock remains stubbornly sealed. Just as frustration mounts, her phone rings, disrupting the quiet of the station. Upon answering, she is met with the unsettling sound of a pig's squeal, followed by a chilling voice taunting her as "Little Piggy." Jessica doesn't entertain the prank lightly, sternly warning the caller of the legal consequences of harassing a police officer. However, the mysterious voice persists, tormenting her further before abruptly terminating the call. Frustrated and unnerved, Jessica wastes no time in reaching out to the new police station, seeking assistance in tracing the origin of the disturbing call. However, she is bluntly denied after hearing her father's name. Disappointed by the lack of support from the officer at the new station, Jessica finds herself facing a roadblock in her quest for answers. Undeterred, she retreats to the locker room, determined to unearth the truth on her own terms. Taking decisive action, she resorts to shooting open the stubborn lock on her father's drawer. Inside, amidst the crumpled newspaper clipping and a cherished photograph, she discovers a hidden compartment. Among the findings is a solitary female sandal, a poignant reminder of the lives touched by her father's valiant efforts. Delving deeper, she uncovers a file meticulously documenting the girls rescued from the clutches of John Malum and his depraved cult. Shock washes over her as she reads about the sinister rituals orchestrated by Malum's followers, who dubbed themselves the followers of the Low God. Suddenly, the sound of a pig snorting jolts her back to the present. Acting swiftly, Jessica contacts the new station, alerting them to the presence of a large pig tethered outside. However, her urgency is met with caution from the officer on the other end, who advises her to refrain from intervening and remain indoors for her own safety. After ending the call, Jessica summons her courage and steps outside to confront the discovery awaiting her. There, etched onto the pig's hide, lies a chilling symbol of the cult's dark influence. With determination, she captures photographic evidence of the macabre marking, before noticing a peculiar name tag adorning the pig's collar. The name Betty is written on it. The revelation hits her hard, as Betty was one of the unfortunate victims of the cult's ritualistic practices. Moved by empathy, Jessica brings the pig, now named Betty, inside the safety of the police station. There she provides the animal with a bucket of water. As she exits the room, strange noises draw her attention to a specific area. Without hesitation, Jessica contacts the news station once more, alerting them to a potential intrusion. Following the sound, she stumbles upon an open door, promptly securing it shut. Yet, her senses continue to tingle with unease as she detects movement behind her. Turning to investigate, she comes face to face with the elderly man from earlier, clutching the female sandal in his trembling hands. Jessica's interrogation yields no clear answers as the man professes confusion and struggles to recollect. Soon the man starts hitting himself with the sandal. Growing increasingly suspicious, Jessica decides to take action. Using her taser, she subdues the man as he collapses to the ground. Swiftly, she restrains him with handcuffs and escorts him to the holding area for further questioning. On the way there, she notices the badly molded ceilings. Attempting to confine the man to a cell, Jessica encounters unexpected resistance as he grows apprehensive. He keeps shouting that she is here. Despite his protests, Jessica remains resolute, forcing him into the cell. Yet, as she does so, the door slams shut and locks of its own accord, sealing them both within the confines of uncertainty. Concern mounting, Jessica reaches for her radio to call dispatch for backup, but her efforts are met with silence, save for the unsettling whisper that echoes through the static. It says she is still here. The eerie atmosphere intensifies as the man's shouts reverberate, sending a shiver down Jessica's spine. As she fumbles to activate her flashlight, panic sets in, and her heart races with fear. In the dim glow of the flashlight, Jessica catches sight of the man retreating into a shadowy corner. His movements are erratic and menacing. As he shouts and rushes towards her, the scared woman drops her flashlight and quickly moves out of the way. Afterwards, while frantically searching for her flashlight, Jessica is startled by the sound of it rolling away, only to discover it being inexplicably turned on by someone or something else. Initially attributing it to the man, Jessica's dread deepens when the flashlight moves seemingly of its own accord, gravitating towards him. A sudden sound pierces the tension. It happens to be her father's voice. Frozen in fear, Jessica watches as the flashlight rolls towards her. Then it illuminates ghostly apparitions that materialize before her, only to vanish moments later. Determined to regain her composure, Jessica finally exits the cell as the door opens. She secures it behind her, before reaching out to Officer Cohen for assistance. However, Cohen's response does little to reassure her. His demeanor is still abrasive as he dismisses her concerns. Pressing on, Jessica recounts her encounter in the holding area, detailing the intrusion by the homeless man. Cohen gets angry since he had asked her not to go there. The holding area is contaminated with toxic black mold, known to induce hallucinations, casting doubt on the veracity of her chilling experience. After her conversation with Cohen, Jessica resolves to tackle the aftermath of the unsettling events. As she begins to clean up the scattered objects, her eyes fall upon a chilling discovery, a gruesome sketch, and a collection of photographs. Among them, she unearths startling information about the Temple Baron, a malevolent entity predating biblical times, reputed to herald doom and destruction. Connecting the dots, Jessica recognizes the sinister symbol featured in the photographs as identical to the one branded on the pig. As she continues sifting through the unsettling contents, Jessica's attention is drawn to a nondescript pen drive nestled among the belongings. Determined to delve deeper into the mysteries surrounding her father's past, she steps outside to retrieve her laptop from her car. There, she is startled by the sudden arrival of another vehicle. With shock, she witnesses a man callously throwing a woman out of the car before speeding away, leaving the poor woman injured and vulnerable. Moved by compassion, Jessica rushes to the woman's aid, ushering her inside the safety of the police station. As she tends to the woman's wounds, Jessica is taken aback when the stranger discloses a startling revelation. Her father was once a member of law enforcement. During their conversation, the woman shares a chilling story of an incident involving the mountain flock, claiming to have witnessed them hanging in the next cell. Jessica counters, stating they passed away in an officer-involved shooting. But the woman bet that what she is telling is the truth, as she saw they had pillowcases over their heads and blood all over the walls. Suddenly, the woman's demeanor shifts, her gaze fixed on something unseen by Jessica. A sense of unease grips the air as the woman initiates an unsettling prayer, leaving Jessica perplexed. Alarmed by the woman's distress, Jessica offers to call for medical assistance, only to be jolted by the woman's sudden shriek. Startled and unnerved, Jessica recoils, but the woman quickly regains her composure, apologizing for her outburst and attributing it to a momentary lapse. Frustration and anger simmer within Jessica as she confronts the woman's strange behavior and demands her immediate departure from the station. As Jessica grapples with the aftermath of the woman's departure, she is confronted with an eerie phone call that sends shivers down her spine. A mysterious voice on the line delivers a haunting ultimatum. If Jessica dares to disconnect, a girl named Monica Matthews will meet a grim fate. The caller ominously alludes to her father's involvement in something significant, hinting at a sinister agenda that is about to unfold that very night. Driven by urgency, Jessica swiftly reaches out to the news station, relaying the distressing news of Monica Matthews' abduction by the strange flock. However, the responding officer delivers a devastating revelation himself. Monica Matthews wasn't the only one to vanish. Julie Sims and Anna Cole are also missing, the same trio her father had valiantly rescued a year prior. Determined to uncover the truth, Jessica plugs the mysterious pen drive into her laptop, bracing herself for the disturbing contents within. As she watches the grotesque footage unfold, a woman mercilessly attacking another with a baseball bat, Jessica's sense of unease intensifies. Her stomach churns with disgust. Amidst the chaos, Jessica's phone rings, her mother's voice on the other end. Strangely, the video on her laptop screen suddenly springs to life on its own. Diane's urgent instructions to halt the playback only add to Jessica's growing sense of dread. Despite her frantic efforts, the video continues, unfolding a surreal sequence where a woman within the footage addresses Jessica by name. Shock courses through Jessica as she watches her own self captured on screen. Yet, her disbelief turns to horror as the Jessica within the video rises from her seat, hurling a mysterious box to the ground. In a state of bewilderment, Jessica cautiously investigates the enigmatic box, discovering a paper target written over with the ominous phrase, "Still here." Intrigued yet apprehensive, she makes her way to the shooting range, where an eerie scene unfolds before her eyes. To her astonishment, the targets within the range spring to life, moving of their own accord, as if guided by an unseen force. As Jessica's gaze falls upon a new paper target bearing the same sinister symbol, a palpable sense of dread washes over her. With trembling hands, she removes the target from its place, only to find herself ensnared in a nightmarish encounter with a malevolent entity. Panic-stricken, Jessica attempts to flee, but her efforts are thwarted when she discovers the exit locked, trapping her within the confines of the station. As fear tightens its grip, Jessica's gaze falls upon a chilling apparition. It is the reflection of her father's visage, hauntingly manifested upon the glass. Overcome with terror, she flees and reaches for her phone, urgently dialing the news station for assistance. Relief floods over her as the responding officer pledges to dispatch a unit equipped with bolt cutters to liberate her from captivity. Despite her rising panic, Jessica presses the officer for information about John Mallam's demise. She asks him if John Mallam perished here, to which the officer says he himself wasn't there, but he has heard rumors. Faced with the pressing urgency of the situation, Jessica implores the officer for immediate assistance. Yet, the officer remains steadfast in his resolve, emphasizing the vital role Jessica could play in unraveling the mystery surrounding the three missing girls. Since the caller is only informing her she needs to be here. Reluctantly accepting the gravity of the situation, Jessica resolves to confront the looming darkness head-on. After ending the call, Jessica resumes her scrutiny of the disturbing video, her senses on high alert as the haunting scenes unfold before her eyes. As Will interrogates John Mallam and his female acolytes, Jessica's attention is drawn to a chilling revelation, the sinister promise uttered by Mallam, vowing to return for Will and all he holds dear. However, it's a moment of horrifying realization that sends shivers down Jessica's spine. Upon closer inspection, she discerns an uncanny, demonic presence lurking behind Mallam, hidden from plain sight, but undeniably there. The revelation leaves Jessica reeling, her mind grappling with the information. Suddenly, Jessica finds herself getting grabbed from behind, and then is transported in a stretcher. After some time, she finds herself awakening in a stark and unfamiliar setting, a morgue. There, she is surrounded by the lifeless bodies of Mallam and his devoted followers. The air is thick with an ominous stillness. Poor Jessica is gripped by a sense of unease as the haunting melody of the low god song echoes eerily in the silence. Soon after, the lifeless bodies of Malum and his followers inexplicably spring to motion. Jessica is overcome with terror, paralyzed by the surreal horror unfolding before her eyes. Her frantic cries for help echo through the morgue's sterile confines, but her pleas fall on deaf ears. Hope flickers briefly as the coroner arrives, but it is swiftly extinguished when the cult members launch a brutal attack, claiming the coroner's life before leaving with Malum's body. Alone and shaken, Jessica tentatively moves her hand inside the body bag. Her heart is pounding with trepidation. As she unzips the bag, she is terrorized by the ominous presence that haunts her every move. Before things escalate, the nightmare ends and Jessica finds herself abruptly transported back to the familiarity of her office. The ordeal in the morgue turned out to be a nightmare. Her solitude is shattered by the arrival of Officers Price and Hudson, asking about the individual in custody. As Hudson departs to retrieve the detained man, Price opens up about Jessica's father, painting a complex portrait of a man once revered as a hero who succumbed to a tragic downfall. When Jessica asks about that fateful day, Price explains that her father wasn't acting normal. Price regrets not informing the chief. Will kept repeatedly watching an interrogation video where he claimed to have seen something unusual. He had also warned Price to steer clear of the holding area, cryptically hinting at John Malum's lingering presence. Price scoffs since he didn't believe in all that. Still doesn't. He then leads Jessica to the locker room, unveiling Will's shotgun, though Will had intended for the weapon to be destroyed along with the building. The officer puts it back in its place, and when he turns back, his face is contorted and looks as though it has been brutally smashed. Terrified, Jessica whips around, covering her eyes. Then, all of a sudden, Jessica finds herself transported to a nightmarish realm where Malum and his devoted followers hold court. Horrified, she witnesses a grotesque ritual unfold as Malum baptizes a child who bears a striking resemblance to her younger self. She then sees her mother. This revelation sends shockwaves through Jessica. Suddenly jolted back to reality, Jessica finds herself in her office. The echo of the old man's cries piercing the silence. Racing to investigate, she discovers the key lying abandoned on the floor. However, her efforts are interrupted by the sight of Hudson, his gun trained on the old man. Quickly, Jessica unlocks the door, granting the man a brief opportunity to flee. While leaving, he hears Betty's voice saying she wants to go home. Spotting a sandal in front of a cell, he picks it up and unlocks the door. On the other hand, Jessica seizes a moment to reach out to her. The call goes straight to voicemail, and she sends a message asking her mother to call back. Before her is the footage of her mother holding her. Her mother whispers to her how her father would soon find them and beat John to a pulp. Just then, Jessica finds herself pursued by the pig released from the cell. However, its body has morphed into a mutilated sinister form advancing relentlessly. Desperate to escape, she flees her office, the creature hot on her heels. In a moment of terror and confusion, Jessica fires her weapon, only to realize with horror that her target was none other than the innocent pig she had rescued earlier. Just then, the tolling of the bell reverberates through the station. She rushes to the door and catches sight of her mother there. Jessica quickly ushers her mother inside, her mind awash with questions demanding answers. When she questions her mother about everything that's been going on, Diane admits that she left Jessica's father when she was pregnant because John found her. He came knocking, claiming that the baby would be part of something significant, and she believed him. However, Diane then observed unsettling sights after Jessica was born and felt compelled to keep her as far away as possible from the man. After her father saved them, they moved on with their lives, until John rediscovered them a year ago. The man had other plans, and even though Will stopped him, he wanted them back. After saying this, Diane notices Will's apparition behind Jessica and heads in that direction. Jessica asks what she was supposed to be a part of, but the woman quietly follows the ghost into a room. Jessica also follows her to the office, but all of a sudden, the sound of a woman's desperate cries pierces the air, prompting Jessica to take decisive action. Instructing her mother to lock the door and remain hidden, Jessica cautiously approaches the source of the commotion. She calls the other branch, asking for backup. As she reaches the place, Jessica is confronted by a harrowing sight. A woman is wielding a gun and holding a young girl hostage. With nerves taut and adrenaline coursing through her veins, Jessica confronts the woman who tells her to holster her own gun, or else the hostage would be no more. Jessica slowly lowers her gun and asks the woman about her motives. In a chilling revelation, the woman reveals John Malum's sinister intent. He wants Jessica. Ever since she was a baby, the low god had been whispering in Malum's ear, and now he wants her by his side. The woman then tells Jessica that she would need power for the ritual, power which comes from the sacrificial spilling of innocent blood. In a moment of heart-wrenching tragedy, the woman callously executes the young girl before Jessica's eyes, sending shockwaves of horror coursing through her soul. Reacting on instinct, Jessica unleashes her fury at the disgusting woman, taking her out with a barrage of gunfire. Yet, her relief is short-lived as a horde of cult members rush upon her from the shadow. Their intent is quite clear. They want to capture her at any cost. Acting swiftly, and with sheer determination, Jessica manages to break free from the clutches of her assailants. Returning to the office, she is met with a chilling emptiness. Her mother is nowhere to be found. As panic threatens to consume her, the shrill ring of the phone jolts her back to reality. She quickly picks it up and talks. However, soon she finds out that the person on the other end is none other than John Malum himself. His menacing words drip with malice as he unveils his nefarious plans. Angry and panicked, she shouts at him, asking where her mother is. The man laughs sinisterly and says how much of a faithful and devoted follower she was. He then tells her cryptically that a vessel is chosen by the passenger. He was chosen back when he was just a boy. Now, tonight, the low god will arrive again. Just then, Jessica feels a presence behind her. As she turns around, she finds the homeless man from earlier. She slowly nears him with her nerves on edge and her mind racing with unanswered questions. Trembling, she asks him what he is doing here and where her mother is. After speaking, she notices a long, menacing streak of blood going back to him. Then, horrifyingly, she finds one of his feet missing. As she moves the flashlight from his feet to his face, she is met with a menacing lunge from the fatally injured man. This leaves Jessica with no choice but to defend herself. Her gunshot reverberates through the silent corridors of the police station. Before she can catch her breath, the tranquility of the station is shattered by the raid of Malum's zealous followers. Amidst the chaos, Jessica's gaze falls upon one of the missing girls suspended above the twisted satanic symbol. As Jessica rushes, she is intercepted by Officers Price and Hudson. Then she hears the anguished cries of a woman in distress. Racing against time, Jessica arrives to find a masked man mercilessly attacking the defenseless girl. Trying to help, Jessica unleashes a hail of gunfire at the attacker, but the damage is already done. The girl's fate is sealed by the merciless hand of her assailant. All of a sudden, Jessica sees the spirit of her father. She rushes after him, and finally they come face to face. Her dad looks at her and says that she doesn't belong in that uniform. She sure didn't need to hear that though. Wrestling with conflicting emotions, Jessica asks him about his actions. How could he hurt all those people? He responds that he's a cop, and that's what cops sometimes have to do. Before she can find solace in his words, a low god fanatic appears. He shoots at poor Jessica. Amidst this commotion, Will's apparition vanishes. Following the attacker, Jessica rushes out. She takes out another cult member and tries to save the last remaining girl, but to no avail. Following this, she hears her mother's cry for help. In a desperate bid to rescue her mother, Jessica rushes to the locker room. There, she seizes her father's shotgun before descending into the basement. Suddenly, she is confronted by a nightmarish scene. The demonic cult members forms drenched in blood, chanting the ominous prayer of the low god. Guided by one of them, Jessica is led into a chamber where her mother sits upon a throne. She slowly approaches the throne and unmasks her only to be confronted by none other than John Malum. The man's face has contorted and turned into a demon. Shock and terror grip Jessica's heart as she recoils in horror, her every instinct urging her to flee. But soon she is surrounded by the menacing presence of the cult members. Then, Jessica finds herself paralyzed by fear as the malevolent entity they worship, the low god, finally reveals itself. All of a sudden, the cult members declare Jessica's spirit as the sacrificial offering to satiate the demon's hunger. With trembling hands, Jessica raises her weapon and fires at the demonic entity. However, her efforts prove futile against its unholy power. The demon turns its attention towards her. Its grotesque face starts to peel off and hits Jessica, who is then transported to the hallway. There, she finds herself face to face with the demon once more. Picking up the shotgun, she shoots only to find that the one she took out was not the demon but her mother. This finally breaks the woman, and she falls down with tears streaming down her cheeks. As Jessica grapples with the unbearable pain of her actions, the mocking laughter of Malum's followers echo all around her, and Will also appears, crying while holding Diane. The movie finally ends with a heavy-hearted and tearful Jessica chanting her cop's code of honor. Moments later, unable to go on any longer, she takes up her weapon and ends her misery for good. As the screen fades to black, the chilling echoes of her sacrifice linger. In the epilogue, we see Malum sitting beside the lifeless form of Jessica. The latter stirs after a moment, and the screen goes black.